DVD laser is separate from the Blu-ray. Oh, it started, Micah. I'm starting my torture video.
Huh?
I'm starting my torture video right now. Let the torture commence. What's up, Sam? Oh, alright, so.
Doesn't even try to read DVDs.
Won't read DVDs either? Alright, so the drive's probably dead. Like the actual motor or something's dead in it.
Yeah.
Pull it apart. We might have a parts one back there that has the same drive in it. Actually, check on the back. Once you turn it off, there's a model number. It's usually like check 01 or something like that. See what it is. Sam retracted his message. Why is it going to be torture? Let's show you. Oh, you can't see it right now. So, I tried just putting this chip back on with jumpers and it doesn't work. So it's missing 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a couple more that are loose, and then there's a I2 squared line here that the pad was lifted and I scraped it down to catch the via. So I'm gonna have to solder each wire to the bottom of the chip and then to the pad, and hopefully not bridge anything, and hopefully it'll work. So I've already glued the chip down with some conformal coating just to hold it in place. Hopefully it'll hold it. I don't know how strong it is or not. So I'm gonna have to solder all these wires. So how many is that? 6 by 6, so 36 jumpers. Alright, so I'm gonna tin this tip if I can. Okay. Trying to think of what's going to be the easiest way to do this. I guess the sides will be easier to come up and over to keep them out of the way. Yeah, that chip's not held down very well. $2009. I don't know that I've seen 2009. What was wrong with the phone that caused it to have error 2009? I'm gonna try to tack my corners down first here. Yeah. I have to blow my nose here. Alright. This video is going to be fairly dark because I'm going to be zoomed in all the way the entire time. I'll try to keep the brightness as high as I can keep it. Alright. Let's continue. Software, software, making sure of the latest iTunes. Yeah, that sounds more familiar. Hey, iPhone 6 I did earlier that came in for Tristar repair but was actually Tigris is now booting up right now. I think this is the hardest part here, like getting these to tack down without just melting the coating completely off the wire all the way up is a pain in the dick. Alright, our phone that was not charging is now charging over there. So we've done a couple, we did a Tristar today and a Tigris today, so this just keeps with the theme of charging issues. Well, wire came off. Let's see if that's attached now. Alright, it's attached. Have you tried a new charge port to make sure that the charge port's not bad? Well, yeah. I'm sure Jessa will watch this video and be like, why the fuck is he doing this? But I like a challenge. I like to see if I can do it. I will be shocked if it works. Just because I don't know what kind of damage was done otherwise, so this could be a compounded issue by something else, who knows? We'll find out. Oh my god, come on, wire. Probably gonna have to turn the board multiple times. Alright. It'll work, have faith. I'm trying to. This isn't the first time I've done it. I did this off stream earlier and it didn't work, but I was hoping that maybe one of my jumper wires was fucked up. I noticed what was happening was the input voltage, the 5-volt input, was coming into Tristar and was getting dumped down to 2.5 volts. Which told me that we had a problem with possibly a short somewhere, or the chip was cutting the power down for some reason. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. I'm gonna clean this pretty regularly too, because the flux seems to gum up quite a bit while doing this. So and as far as appearance goes, this thing's probably gonna look like shit, but what can you do? Not a beauty contest. It's a functionality contest. Alright, so we'll put down a little more flux. We'll come back in. We're gonna have to cut this wire down some so I don't have so much hanging off of it. Okay. I might try doing a flash 3U tools instead of iTunes. Yeah, when I first used 3U, I wasn't overly impressed with it, but it's gotten progressively better. I mean, it was helpful. It helped with reading out battery data, but I was hoping for some more features and stuff, and they've definitely added things that are helpful. I mean, can you really complain about freeware like that, though? Okay. So that line is close to the other one, so I want to make sure that they're not touching. Alright, so they're separated. So that's row uno. Row number 1 is done. We're going to try to position these so that we have some clear gaps where these things won't touch each other. I'm going to clean it again and then move on to the next row. What am I going to use to hold it in place? I might do solder mask, or I might get some epoxy, some clear epoxy to hold it down. That way it won't go anywhere. I mean, with this many bond wires jumped to it, or not bond wires, but just jumper wires. This many wires jumped to it, I highly doubt it's going to move much anyway, but just to make sure it doesn't. Alright, so all those are attached. I'm going to go through and check those. This is going to be a methodical process, so. Alright, so that one's loose. I'm sure it's hard for you all to see a lot of this. Okay, we'll retest that wire. Okay, it's good now. That one's good. That one's good. That's good. That's good, and that one's good. Alright, so on to stage 2. Yeah, we've had a few phones like that. Like, just running them through the ultrasonic will fix whatever issues they're having. Usually it comes down to there's a piece of corrosion somewhere that's touching something, and that little bit of time in the ultrasonic bath will remove those issues. It's a good tool to have, that's for sure. So if you don't have an ultrasonic, let that be a nice little success story and proof that it's a good idea. Okay, I'm going to try to leave a little bit of slack in these just to avoid any issues with them being too tight or something and when I'm breaking off because of it. Almost makes me wish I had some smaller gauge wire here. 43 gauge is huge in comparison. See, that's what I didn't want to happen. That one's now been stripped back a little bit too far, so it makes me worry that it's going to have some type of short later. I'll try to push it down and away from the other line there. Well, we might be okay. We got a little extra hanging off the end down here though. Get rid of that. Yeah, ultrasonic pays for itself pretty quickly. If you don't have a good one, get one because they pay off pretty quick. I've had my new ultrasonic for a week or so now. It's already fixed 2 boards that made me a couple $100, so they definitely pay for themselves. Okay, so I'm kind of worried about how far that one tinned back. I'm going to try to leave some slack in it, kind of route it around away from the other line. Okay, so routed that one, kind of looped it out away from the other lines just to give it some space. Alright, so Just gonna push that one off to the side here. There we go. Drop test mica.
It did drop.
Yeah, I know you can't make up for yesterday. You got enough drops in for the week. Okay. Wrap this one around the outside edge also.
Got a different drive on this one.
Are they the same model number though? On the outside? On the actual bodies, not the drives
the
themselves.
bodies are the same.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that's not something to rely on then.
Fairly different drive though. Clearly a different drive. Chris, tell me your model number like that.
Do you have the can here? This looks like a minefield. Alright, so we got our long loop here to avoid this touching anything. That one's good. That one's good. Alright, I'm okay with those. So we'll move on to our next layer. Which ultrasonic are you buying? As far as my ultrasonic goes, I ended up getting a Sharper Tech, and I have to say, for the money, it's a pretty nice unit. I mean, I don't know what Crest has that might be different, but this one seems to be really well made. Doesn't seem like it's got cheap materials in it. Okay. That one's connected. Kind of move it out of the way so it's not touching this other one.
Station 3. Crap station. Crap.
Okay, that one's lifted off now and it's not touching. So we'll move on to the next one. This is coated wire, but the heat every time I touch it is gonna burn some of that back, so I'm trying to lift these up so they kind of loop over to kind of give itself a little extra space. Why am I doing it? Because there's so many lifted pads under this Tristar chip. This is the best option. So on to the next.
I don't think we have another drive here.
Checking the other parts stuff back there, just to make sure. Alright, so on to the next.
This one's got the same designs.
fucker. Didn't want to do that. Let's separate that one out a little bit. This is why the extra length of wire is important. If anything happens like that where it kind of runs back up the coating a little bit, I have some room to play with. Make sure it's not touching anything. Okay. Loop this around the outside like the others. Alright, clean that up, check it, and move on to the next row. Alright, those are all good. Two port stations didn't make much sense since you can only power two regular soldering irons at the same time. So I'm going to show this. The FM203 will do a regular iron and desoldering iron on one side, and then the other side it'll do micro tweezers, regular tweezers, micro pencil, or desoldering iron. I don't think you'll ever need anything other than that, but at least not for this line of work. Okay, put down some flux.
This looks similar.
Turn this. Yep. What's up? Alright, what'd they say? Yeah. Okay. Alright. Okay. Yeah, you can bring it right down here. There you go. Yeah, you can bring it right down here. Alright. Can you bring us food? McDonald's is fine. Wendy's, whatever. Something fast. Alright. Love you. Bye. Alright, so let's continue on with our torture test here. It seems to be a lot easier to solder these when I come in from the side, so I'm going to be constantly turning this. Alright, let's see. Break that wire off. Okay. FM203 is a good station. I bought mine used with 2 irons and 2 stands. Micah got his as a showroom model that was never turned on. It was just up for display at some store. I think what'd you buy, 400? Micah?
Yeah, 400.
So, I mean, it's a decent price for technically a brand new unit. I pay after everything, after the micro pencil, micro tweezers and everything. I mean, I probably have like 700 in it, but it's been well worth it. They've made their money back quite easily. Alright, so on to the next. I don't like that one. I'm going to cut it off. The wire looked broken to me. I was worried it was going to snap right there in that bend. So we'll just redo that jumper to avoid any issues in the future. Okay. It's an iPad 2 4th. What? iPad 2 4th gen? An iPad 4th gen or an iPad 2? Or iPad Air 2? Won't boot past logo? That's usually either a data line issue or battery problem. It could be software problem too. I would check doing an update first, but just like all Mac products, iPads, iPhones, iPods, all of them are susceptible to software corruption fairly easy. Seems to be the #1 problem we see with Macs is they get software corruption real easily.
What are you hammering on right now?
I'm hammering on an iPhone 6 that somebody tried to fix and messed up.
What happens? Good thing they do. It's more business for you.
This is, if it works, I'll be happy, but not too confident. Not super confident it will.
Here for this one?
I
There
don't
you go.
really understand that one. That is.
I kept
screen
having
that-
issues out of that screen, and I swapped it onto my personal G3, and it worked. The board worked fine.
This is not the screen that came on it. The screen we took off of it when it came in, it was black. We put on the G3. It's working fine. The screen that was on the other G3 was working fine when we took it off.
Yeah.
And both screens, when we plugged them on here, were black. So
Yeah.
it's just weird. I don't understand that. Just one of those kind of shit happen things. So
Yeah.
Welcome to X-Acto. Okay.
Another row done. Clean this up. Move on to the next one. Let's check our lines, make sure nobody's touching anybody that shouldn't be. I'm going to push this line out and away from the capacitor a little bit. I don't think it'll have any issues, but just in case. Actually, it's supposed to touch that cap anyway, so we'll bring it right down next to it, actually. Okay. All my lines seem to be not touching anybody. Alright. 2 more rows to go. 2 more to go. And then disappointment. Okay, that one's run. twitching watching me do. Don't twitch. Just sit back and enjoy. Nothing? Alright, we'll order one. Message Seth and tell him we've got to order the drive for it. And then tell him his phones are done. Also makes me wonder if these two missing caps down here are overly important or not. I don't think they are, but if I do all this and it's not working, I'm going to put those caps on. Because I'd rather eliminate something easy than redo this or anything along those lines. I'd rather not redo this because I've already done it a couple of times. I assume this is for data recovery? No, actually, well, yeah, it is, but it's so that the owner of the shop doesn't have to buy a new phone. He's a friend of mine, so I told him I would try it just to see. I mean, I'm not gonna charge normal price for it, but it's not gonna be crazy high. I also like to challenge myself every now and then, so most of my board work stuff's done for the day. I don't think I really have anything else other than I have a 6S that has a really weird issue, and I'm not sure if anybody's seen this, so if you have in chat, let me know. So she has a 6S that the screen was broken on. She took it to Batteries Plus. They put a screen on it. While she was there, she asked them to go ahead and change the battery because the battery life wasn't as good. So they replaced the battery, and the battery would die on her really fast. And it stopped charging for her one day. So we thought maybe the battery that they put in was shit, which the one they put in was actually a fairly expensive battery. It was made by a company called Empire. They're like $35 a piece for the batteries. Fuck, I knew that was gonna break. I should have just taken it off. Anyway, so we tested the battery, put a new one on it, and I told her to let me know if it did it again. So she gives us a call up and says that her phone's not charging. Well, she had it on a 6-foot cable, so it was because of the cable it wasn't charging, but she brought it back in, we charged it up, and I told her I would look at it overnight. So I looked at it, I charged it up to about 90% and left it overnight just to see what the battery drop would be, and came back in the morning and it was completely dead. The phone had just been on in standby, not actually doing anything. I had turned off all the location settings that weren't necessary. Like everything's set to app only use, nothing's set to always, and it was completely dead. So I checked the voltage on the battery and the battery was down to 2.6 volts, so it had pulled it really low. And I hooked it up to my DC power supply to see if there was any like high amp draw from something going on, and I couldn't see anything that looked out of the norm. When the phone was on but the screen was off and it was in idle, it was pulling between 100 to 200 milliamps just at idle. I don't know if that's high or not, so if somebody has like if I can get this one working, we can test this one, but if anybody has an i6 laying around or something and they want to test that real quick, much appreciated. Or 6S, either one. I just need to know what the idle milliamp draw is to see if this is high or not. So the only thing I can think is that either something's partially shorted on like the battery VCC line or something, and it's causing the phone to draw amperage faster than it should, and it's drawing the battery down below where it should stop, and thus the phone sees the battery as not chargeable and it won't charge back up after it's gone completely dead. So I need to figure out something on it. Haven't checked the bat VCC line yet for diode reading, but when I hooked up just the battery, to it on my DC power supply, the battery connector, there was no amp draw while the phone was off, which I thought maybe if the battery VCC line was messed up that would be causing it, but there's nothing there. Like there's no amp draw. Like I can hook up my DC power supply and the milliamp draw doesn't move at all until I press the power button. So I'm not sure what's causing the issue. I was gonna try a new Tristar for shits and giggles just to see if there was something going on there, and maybe a charging port to see if like something was stuck causing it to constantly like output the 3.3 accessory line. Maybe, I don't know what would cause it. Oh, where dialing comes from? Yeah, the term dialing. Yeah, I'm not sure that if it was data recovery you would need all these. The I2C lines maybe? I don't know if you could power this up without it or not. Hell, this thing may not even be Tristar the entire time. It could be something completely separate that was causing the issues. Alright, so let's clean that up and then we got one more row to do. Okay, so this one was a little sketchy, but it seems to be separate. Alright, so all those attached. Last row. Last row. I was hoping that some of these lines were going to be NC lines, but evidently the Tristar has no NC pads under it on the iPhones. I know they do on the iPads. But evidently on the iPhones they do not. Ooh, don't do that. I just slid my tweezers across those wires. Luckily I don't think anything moved or disconnected, at least. We'll have to check one of those. One of those might be fucked. Let's see. No, it's okay. So far, still good. Mark on which one? Did you get the data off that phone?
I've got the one day, yeah.
Get the text and the contacts.
Huh?
Get text and contacts.
I know I'm going to start on that, but I got to figure out how to get the text. I'm not sure how.
Well, I mean, get contacts at least. Just devote time to that because I have to send it back out today.
All right.
Oh, the 6S battery drain? You're saying the screen? I was thinking the screen on this one. Just because it's an aftermarket screen and I don't know the quality of it. I was thinking maybe that it had some type of draw on the 1v8 line, being that it has most of the aftermarket screens bypass the chestnut logic gate that is built into the original screens. So they have a 1v8 that comes in, and then it goes through some type of internal logic on the LCD, and then it gets output back to the chestnut enable line. And I've noticed from looking at other videos and where people have been metering them, and I've metered them myself too, like they have straight throughput on them. So there is a issue with there could be possible issues where those are draining the 1v8 line and drawing more current than they should, or drawing a constant current because there's no check, there's no logic check there. Please don't disconnect the little pad. Okay, so I'll try that out. That's what I was thinking today after she came back, and it was still having charging issues, and then after I left it overnight, I was like, man, I was like, something's not right here. Be kind of ironic if that's what it was, because they've replaced her screen and battery for her. And it would make sense too, because I don't believe she said she had issues with those types of problems prior to the screen replacement. She said the battery wasn't holding charge as long, but she never had problems with it dropping below a certain point and not charging. Alright. So all our wires are run. I don't see anybody that would be causing any issues as far as touching something. All our connections are there. That one's still connected. Alright. Let's see if this thing is seen by the charger or not, because that'll be the true test. If Tristar is working, this should be seen by the power supply and should try to draw amperage. Oh, it's working. Micah, it's working.
It's working.
So, I know you all can't see it, but on the DC power supply here, I'll pull it up here so you all can see it. Whenever there's a battery not present, so see what our amp draw is right there. Let me do this a different way so it's a little easier, so I'm not dicking with the iPhone itself. Alright, so when Tristar is working and there's no battery present, it will try to boot the phone, so the amp draw here will go up even though there's a battery not present. So see how the amp draw is bouncing around now? That tells me that Tristar sees the USB and is trying to boot the phone. Before this, it wasn't working. So now it is seeing the charger, and I'm going to try plugging this in with a battery present and a screen on it and see if it'll boot up. So plug those in. I'm gonna have to probably go grab a screen. Let me go grab one real quick. got me a screen. Okay, screen's plugged in. I'll drop my microscope down to hold my screen up there for me. Alright, grab a battery here. Alright, battery. Let's make sure it doesn't self-boot. Okay, it didn't boot itself up, so that's good. Now let's see if it'll turn on or if it'll charge. It's turning on, sweet. So it's pulling 500 milliamps right now. That could be because the battery has got quite a bit of charge on it. We'll see here in a second. Normally 500 milliamps is towards the upper part of the battery being charged, usually in the 80 to 90% range. When it's lower on charge, we usually see them up near an amp or so on this meter. So we'll see if it boots. Hopefully it'll boot up. Yeah, it booted. Alright, so we're at 72% right now, so that amp draw is pretty normal. If this was down near like 20 or 30%, it would be up near an amp. 500 milliamps towards the higher end is completely fine. But our phone is up and working. Let's see if it recognizes USB removal. Yes, it does. Let's see if it recognizes it being plugged back in. It does. 72% charged. We'll make sure that it goes up to 73%. So we'll make sure when the screen times out that it continues to charge. So the screen is off and it's still pulling 500 milliamps. So we're going to wait a little bit and see if it charges the battery up. I was going to go over this one. This is a 6 Plus that was sent in as a Tristar problem. So the way I diagnosed this one, just to kind of give you an idea of how I go about these things. The first thing I do anytime I have a Tristar possible issue, open the phone up or open the device up and disconnect the battery and then plug in the charger. So anytime there's no battery present, the iPhones will do kind of a boot loop kind of thing where they're trying to boot and then they'll shut off and then try to boot and shut off, try to boot and shut off. And that's because it's looking for battery power to allow it to boot. And I do that as a first test. So if Tristar is seeing the charger, it will do that. It will show that it's trying to boot the phone up, even though that there's no battery present. So it'll loop. If it's not doing that, that's a pretty good idea that either the charge port is messed up or something along the lines from the charge port to Tristar is messed up. So if the charge port checks out, usually I go to Tristar next and then work my way back from there. If the phone is turning on and it charges while the screen is on, but as soon as the screen shuts off, it stops charging, that can sometimes be Tristar also. If you're having connection issues with the computer and it says like device not recognized or something like that, those are Tristar issues. If it doesn't show that the charger is present at all, those are Tristar issues. Or charging port issues. All these can be charging port or Tristar, but always check charge port and then go Tristar after that. This one though was showing that it was seeing the USB plugged in, and when it booted up, it would sync to the computer. It would say that it was charging when USB was plugged in, but it wouldn't actually charge. So the first thing I did after I realized that is I knew Tristar was okay. I checked a new charging port and it had the same symptoms. So I metered around Tigris. So Tigris has a BAT VCC line and a VCC main line. So when USB is plugged in, Tigris is told, okay, the charger's present, what's the battery percentage, charge up the phone. So the BAT VCC line will be battery voltage. The VCC main line, if it needs to charge, Tigris will boost that voltage on VCC main up to 4.2, which is the maximum that the battery will charge to, and it'll boost up the voltage so that the battery MOSFET opens. That 4.2 volts is higher, so it actually feeds into the battery instead of the battery feeding out. Now, if Tigris is working properly, as soon as you plug in your charger, the battery gauge should open. Your battery voltage should go up to VCC main, which should be boosted voltage to 4.2 volts, and battery VCC main should start climbing as the voltage is pumped into it. Now, if it's not working, which this one wasn't, when I plugged in the battery and I plugged in the charger, battery voltage was 3.98 volts, and VCC main was 3.92 with the charger plugged in. So that told me that Tigris wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So replaced Tigris, and now the phone is on and it's charged up. We charged it for a little bit, about 20 minutes. It went from 0, completely dead, up to 28%. So that's a good way to test that. So let's unplug this and see what's our battery voltage at. 74, so we've gone up 2%. So we are charging, so that's good. Now let's see if it'll talk to the computer. Let's see if our data lines are good. Alright, computer sees it and is installing a driver. And it opened up the folder view. I can see the internal storage now. And let's see, let's open iTunes and see, or we'll open at 3U and see if it reads it. So it's installing the driver. Device information, it's asking me to unlock the screen. So it sees the phone. The data lines are working. Let's flip it and make sure it works the other way, because the data line pairs are backwards. Alright, it works that way also. Same thing, internal storage pops up. So we are successfully good on that repair. So I'm going to pull the power from it. And then I'm going to blob some conformal coating in here for the time being. If that feels like it's going to be stiff enough, we'll leave it at that. Okay. That was a successful Tristar craziness repair. I'm going to take a photo of it too before I send it off. I don't want to dick with it because we know it's working. I'll put some acetone on it and blow it off just to clear it out some. But I don't want to put any like excessive pressure or anything on it. So let that acetone just kind of work in there a little bit. And we'll do this again, just to let that acetone eat up the flux a little bit. Thank you. It's not really amazing, just time consuming. Steady hand too. You have to, I mean, obviously I've done this a couple times now on this exact phone, and this one was successful. The previous one was not, so it's not always 100%. So I'm okay with that. We're gonna leave it just how it is. What's going on?
Everything works on this.
Yeah, just cracked.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it normal 6 plus?
Yeah.
What do you do? Are you a student?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do them for $100, but you get 10% off, so it'll be $90 plus tax.
Okay.
Alright. Let me get your fill out paper for me real quick.
Alright.
We can get it done in about 20 minutes.
Awesome. Would you alright if I just like sat out?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I don't know, like
The couch.
Yeah,
No,
we
the
can-
couches
we
are
can
not
look
there
at
for
it,
us, so we do
yeah,
use them.
it's good response. Good response.
If you want to watch a movie, let us know. We'll pop a
Because,
movie in for you.
Okay.
Should be able to. Okay. All right. No problem. Bye.
Let's see if I can get this a little clearer. Alrighty. Didn't take care of it for you in about 20 minutes. No problem. We'll go grab our food dashes. Same medicine we were already giving her. Why don't I get you some water? Okay, I take out free ball there.
I should have looked at the house when I come from
Some waiter.
Yeah. These things that need to go.
Yeah, I got some other stuff too. I might have to send it out.
And then go, I guess. Have they already paid?
What? Those? Yeah. Alright. I think I'm going to end stream there and go eat some lunch. And then I'll be back with the success.
There's your team burger.
Thank you all for watching. See you in a little bit.